Hi everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Justifying the Investment, the Analytics for Social Media. My name is Peter Van Rysdam. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for 352 Media Group. I'm going to be hosting the webinar today. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to ask them in the Questions tab on the in your dashboard there, and we'll get to those as soon as we can. Also, we're going to be recording the webinar today, so if you missed any part of it or want to share it with anyone, we'll be posting the recording of the webinar up on our blog, which is 352media.com/blog. We'll send out a link to that after the fact so that you have that and don't need to worry about writing that down now. If you have any technical problems or anything during the webinar, again, just put those in the questions or chat tabs, and we will try to answer those for you. As we're getting ready to start here, I'm just going to toss up a quick poll here, so you can now let us know how what you're doing in terms of social media ROI and what you're watching there. And just give a second for those answers that are rolling in right now. So a lot of times, obviously, you know you need to be doing social media, and you know why you need to be doing it, but tracking how well you're doing is very difficult, and making that justification up to the management or the owners of your company can be difficult. And if you're the owner yourself, justifying it to yourself can kind of be difficult. So I'll go ahead and close that poll now. So it looked like about, let me toss up the results there. So it seemed the majority of you aren't doing any social media monitoring right now, which is fine, and hopefully after this you'll be able to do that much better. A few of you also tracking fans and likes, which are important things to watch, and we'll show kind of where that fits in. And then a lot less of you tracking specific key performance indicators or conversions itself, which is the most important thing you want to be watching. And I'm glad to see that no one else could teach the webinar, so that's good for me. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So first thing to know is there is no magic bullet. There's not a formula that I'm going to give you at the end of this that you can just plug into your website and calculate your social media ROI at the end of the day. It's not that easy, and that's really an issue of the fact that the way social works, there are so many different touch points, so many different ways for the customer to interact with you, whether it's different networks or even different ways within those networks. And when someone comes to your website, knowing that they first interacted with you from a social website, it's really difficult to track. So there are some things and ways you can get around that, but unfortunately there's no one single formula that's going to be the savior there for you. So the easy part of tracking return on investment is obviously the investment part, but just because it's easy doesn't mean that everyone's doing it right. So you've got to make sure that you're tracking that, and just because Facebook is free to use doesn't mean it's necessarily free in terms of your ROI. I mean, you've got to consider the people time that you're investing. A lot of companies will just throw an intern at it, and that's not necessarily the best way to go. I've heard the analogy many times that you're talking to potentially tens of thousands of people, and if you had tens of thousands of potential customers in your office or outside of your office, would you send the newest intern out to speak with them, or would you have the president go speak with them or someone in the executive suite? So people is definitely an investment that you need to keep an eye on. The training as well. Training is critical here because it's while social media is similar to other marketing efforts in the ways that you're communicating with customers, there are also a lot of different unique things, the different way you're going to talk to someone on Twitter versus LinkedIn and Facebook, and the different tools that you can use. So having that training is very important. And then, of course, you have the other overhead, the electricity, the internet, all of those things that are going to have to be calculated when you're looking at the investment that you're making in the social space. Now, this is exclusive of things like Facebook advertising or LinkedIn advertising, things where you're actually paying money directly out, because that's obviously pretty easy to track there. So now let's talk about the types of return that we're going to be looking at. there's a few different kinds. The first kind is the stuff that's just nice to see, and we'll go into a couple of examples of what those are. Then there are things that are important to see. We're getting a little bit closer to ROI. And then finally, the things that are mission critical. So the nice to see things, that's not actually return. And the important to see things, it's closer but still not return on investment. The mission critical stuff, that's where you're going to get a raise. That's where you're going to actually justify what you're doing and show that return. So those are the things we're going to focus on most. But first I want to kind of show you what those couple of other examples are. So the nice to see stuff, that's fans, and you know, those of you in the poll that answered that you're tracking the fans and the likes, those are important things to look at. But really, it's a little bit of it's more, you know, to pat your own ego, and it makes you feel good when people are following you and watching you. But the question is, how do we take those fans to the next level? And the next level is not necessarily conversions. That's a level you want to get them to. But the next level after just being a fan is being an active fan and an engaged fan. So you've got your passive fans and your active ones. If you've got 5,000 fans on Facebook, that's great. If you've got 500 of those that are actively commenting, sharing, attending your events, and doing those kinds of things on Facebook, then that's even better. And the higher you can get that ratio, the better. Same with Twitter. In that case, it would be people that are retweeting you, people that are commenting to you, because the important thing there is you have to consider every time they're going to retweet you, that's expanding your network beyond your say 5,000. You know, if you've got 5,000 people and then 500 of them are sharing that, and each of those 500 people has 1,000 followers, you can do the math on how many people you're getting there and how many more you're reaching by having engaged followers and fans. A couple different ways to optimize that. You know, the first thing is obviously your content, and making sure that everything that you post out there, you ask yourself the question: is this something I would share? If it's not, then go ahead and delete it and don't send that out, because all that you're doing then is running the risk of getting hidden or having someone unfollow you or unlike your page, basically. And you know, then you're losing the opportunity to reach them with your more relevant posts. So make sure that whatever you're putting out there is something that you would share if you saw it in your timeline, and that's what's going to make it something that other people will share. This is a chart from a site called Social Bro, where you can go in and kind of do some tracking and find out what time of day you get the most retweets and replies on Twitter. There's a lot of different tools out there that are doing similar things for Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, to show you, you know, what your engagement is, which of your posts are doing the best, and so you can take that information and optimize your posts in the future to make sure you're hitting those things. So the important to see things on the return side, also known as key performance indicators or KPIs, that gets a little bit more into that actual engagement, and not just the number of followers or fans, but the number of those people that are actually interacting with you. So Facebook does a really good job in their analytics of actually showing you some of that information. So this is looking at a video that we posted about a mustache growing contest we had at the office. Very important stuff, obviously. And you can see the reach is what most people would look at. We had 2,300 people that saw this post out of the, we've got about 5,000 likes on Facebook. But of that, 198 were engaged users, 31 were talking about it, and the viral element of that was about 1.3%, as you can see. So yeah, the reach was great, but it didn't get that much you know, viral buzz, if you will. Now on the flip side, these pictures we posted from a banquet we had had a much lower reach compared to the previous one, but the viral component was much higher, a lot more engaged users, people commenting, people sharing, people talking about it, and that's fantastic. So on its face, if you were just looking at you know, kind of those nice to see metrics of the reach, you would think that the first post was much better, whereas in actuality the second post was much stronger. Third example here, this was for an event for a competition we were doing to promote our internship program. Again, reach is very small because that's a very targeted niche, within our audience. Of those 5,000 fans, how many of those are potential interns? Obviously, much less than 5,000, but the viral effect within that community was higher. So to us, that's a success. Even though it didn't reach as many people, we know it reached the people we were trying to have it reach. So that's great. And so these are things that you can do within Facebook, and you definitely want to be watching these things, and not just when you get that weekly email that's telling you how many new likes you have. Going deeper than that and seeing how those people are actually engaging with you. Google Analytics, if you have that set up on your website, or if you have really any analytics package, it should be giving you some of that information about how people are interacting with you from social media sources. So in this case, we're looking at the number of people that are visiting you from the different social media outlets, and this is actually a screenshot from Google Analytics' own blog, which is the only reason why I think Google +1 is the first referrer, because I don't think most people are seeing that as their top social referrer. But it's letting you know, here's the people, here's the sites that are driving traffic to you, and in some cases, here's the specific posts that are driving traffic to you from those social networks, which is very good things to look at. And so you can see they also give you some reports that you can look at side by side and see the relationship between your social referring elements and the total overall visits for your site, and how those two things interact, which is good to see. Now this is something that's relatively new in Google Analytics called Social Flow. And what they're doing here is actually going a little bit deeper and showing you how people got to your site and what they did when they got there, specifically in terms of social media. So you can see on the left here, and actually I'm going to go ahead and bring up the actual report live so you can see it a little bit better here. So this is our actual numbers for our social graph, so our social visitor flow rather. And so this is showing over this time period, which is the last year, about 2,000 people coming from Facebook, and this shows that the majority, 884 of them, came over to our default page, which is our home page. Others came to different sources, and you can kind of follow those lines and see where people came from and where they went to. Now what you see once they get into your site is you see these red lines, and the red lines are the people that left at that point. So, of those people that came to our default page, others went on to our showcase, our company page, home, services, etc. But in this case, 20% of those dropped off, which isn't terrible when you look at the bounce rate and compare those kinds of numbers. But it's something that gives us feedback on what we can improve on. Now, what's interesting to note here, if you look back, and I'm going to go to the home page of the analytics here and show you something. All right. So you look back at this chart over the same time period, and this is the visitors coming to our website. On this day, December 20th, 2011, we ran an ad on StumbleUpon, which, if you look at this chart, you go, wow, that is fantastic. Our traffic doubled on that day, and that's great information, and obviously that was a great success. However, you come over here back to the social flow, you can see here's those people from StumbleUpon. They came in the second highest thing under Facebook. They all came into this blog post that we were promoting, and then you can see here the percent of people that dropped off. Is this huge red line, and this little sliver that's so small I can barely even get my mouse on, those 18 people stayed on our website and went on to other pages. So when you actually get into it and see what people did when they got there, you can tell that the people that we got from that promotion were very unqualified visitors, and not the kind of visitors that we were wanting to get, because they weren't people that were interested in our products or services. So obviously that was a waste of time and money, and as such we know that, and we haven't done it again. Where likewise we can look at specific things that went well and track those. So the social visitor flow is a great chart and something you should definitely keep an eye on. All right. Let's back over to the PowerPoint here. The next thing I want to talk about is the FRI method. There's a speaker, author named Oliver Blanchard that has done some great talks about social and how you can track it. And this is something he actually did a few years ago. I want to say 2008, 2009, but it's still relevant because it's kind of a fundamental thing that you can do to get some good correlations, not necessarily actual ROI, but it'll get you really close. So the FRI method, as with any calculation you're going to do, you want to first establish a baseline and get a feel for where you're at before you start, because that is obviously critical. Next, you want to calculate the average cost per acquisition for a client, so how much you're spending in your sales effort, whether you're, it's travel expenses to go out and visit clients or a trade show or those kinds of things. What is your average cost per acquisition on the sales side? And then what is the lifetime value of that client? So over the course of however long your relationship is, whether it's them buying that one product or them signing up for a software package you have or something like that, what does that value average out to over the lifetime of an average client? Next, you want to look at how often those customers transact, and that's in the FRI method, that's the F, that's frequency. So if like I said, people come and they buy one product, or they buy one product a month or a few a month, how often are they coming back and returning? Next is reach. So how many customers are you getting in front of? And then you want to take the yield, which is how much people spend per transaction. Obviously, that's a number that if you can get up, that's fantastic as well. And then you overlay that with those key performance indicators from the previous step. So let's say, before you were looking at your Facebook comments and Facebook shares, and maybe that's the charts that you were keeping an eye on. And the Twitter replies and retweets and Google Plus comments and shares, and obviously this is test data, or Google Plus things wouldn't be that high. And then you want to overlay in this frequency, reach, and yield things. And so you can then at that point kind of start to see that correlation of, okay, when these metrics went up, so did my frequency, my reach, and my yield. And you can start to kind of make some conclusions based on that. Now, again, obviously, the correlation versus causation debate comes in here, and it's not a one-to-one where you can definitely attribute those things directly to the efforts that you were doing with social, but it gives you a good idea, and it's something to keep a good eye on. And also within this, as I said, establish a baseline. So you want to kind of put in that starting point of when did we start this social media campaign? What date was that on, so I can see what happened before and what happened as a result of the different things we did. And then the second important thing, and you probably saw this in the Google Analytics or have been doing this already, is to mark key dates along the path within that graph. And so that would be, you would say on March 20th we submitted a blog post that got a big following, or on this day we ran an ad on StumbleUpon, or different things like that. And seeing how those individual things affect something is very important. Now, obviously, again, going back to the analytics, it's important, but it's not the only thing you want to see, because just that spike in traffic isn't enough, as we saw with the StumbleUpon ads. Whereas, if you're seeing more retweets and shares and things, that is good. Now, down here, for example, when we saw another traffic spike that was more sustained, we marked that date in here, and that was because we were mentioned on a television show on Discovery Channel, West Coast Customs. And so that, as I dig into that deeper and see the traffic that came from that, it was much more qualified traffic and did much better for us. So it's kind of a good thing to look at, but to also keep it in mind that that's not necessarily true ROI, and just something that can give you an indication of what you want to dig into a little bit deeper. Okay, so the mission critical things that you want to keep an eye on, and this is where we get into the actual ROI finally. So at this point we're talking about conversions. Conversions can be a lot of different things. It can be an actual sale, and so if you've got an e-commerce site, you can be tracking those people that check out from the cart. It can be getting people to a specific page, like a contact us page. And that's a good conversion for different kinds of sites. For us, our example is people filling out our proposal request form. That's a conversion for us. And we're actually on the conversion side tracking not just the people that fill out the form, but also the people that just come to the form, so we can see, kind of what those abandonment rates are. So seeing who's actually getting to the thank you page, which are the ones that have filled out the form. So what this chart is showing you, this is something within Google Analytics as well, and let me go back over into Google Analytics and show you it in real time. Social conversions. So this is showing, let's see, actually I want overview. Here we go. So under the traffic sources, you have the social tab, and then overview is right under that. So what this is showing me is those conversions that we've set up on our website over this time period, and relating that back to social. So you can kind of ignore the numbers here, because since ours is referring to a proposal form coming in, it's just kind of assigned it a value, which is kind of made up. But if you had a specific product that was a conversion, you could put in those costs and actually get real dollar amounts associated with that. So over this time period, we had about 5,900 people fill out that form or convert on our website. Now, of those, 97 down here are what they call assisted social conversions, and 55 are last interaction social conversions. So the difference there is the 55 people, they were on Facebook, they saw a link, they came over, and while they were visiting our site, they went ahead and filled out that proposal request form. So those are great. Those are the ones you're aiming for. The 97, that's showing the people that that came to our site from Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, noodled around for a little bit, maybe bookmarked it, closed it, came back later, and it's tracking that with a cookie and seeing that, maybe it was 10 times after the person originally came, they went ahead and filled out that form. So it's not as direct, but it's still a conversion. What's good about those ones is they're telling you that maybe there's a few different things that you did there that worked. You can't exactly tell what those things are, but you can know that maybe they saw me on Facebook and came over, and then they came back again based on something that they saw in a magazine ad or a newspaper article that they read about us. So it kind of shows how people can really come to you from a lot of different ways. So tracking this the social conversions is extremely important. And now as you dig down here, you can see where these conversions came from in terms of the visits and things like that. This again is a little less of ROI here because we're not looking at the actual conversions. And Google, through Google Plus, will give you a little bit deeper knowledge because they're obviously able to pass more information along since it's their network that it's coming from. But Facebook stumble upon and on down the line. So again, going back to the stumble upon example, it was good in terms of traffic, but not in terms of actual conversions. And you can see that the time on the site is a great indication of that. The average time spent was 10 seconds. The average number of pages visited was 1, as opposed to a Facebook where that average time for the most visitors is about 2.5 minutes, and they're visiting about 4.5 pages. So you can get a good feel for the value of the traffic coming from those different sources based on the content that you're putting out there. All right. Another great way that's often overlooked in terms of how you can measure your actual ROI is to move where that conversion takes place. So where that ROI tracking gets difficult is you lose that person a lot of times when they're coming from Facebook over to your website. You do it in a different window. They might close out the one browser and then open it up and type in your address, or just there's a lot of different ways they can do it where you're not able to really see that person coming over. So the way you can avoid that is to actually put that conversion onto the social network. So there's a great argument for the fact that most people are not going to Facebook to interact with businesses, and if you get them onto your page on Facebook, that's fantastic, and that's really a coup, because you've gotten them to leave Farmville and leave all the other fun things that they were doing and focus on your company for a second. So getting them to then leave and go to your website, that's a whole nother hurdle that you've got to face. So if you can get that conversion to take place right there, that's great. So we're in the process right now of putting our proposal form on Facebook so we can get that conversion over there. But right now we've got our internship application on Facebook, and that's another type of conversion, obviously, for different campaigns we're doing, where we want to get some new interns to apply for our internship program and potentially be employees for us. If we can get them over to our website to fill out that application, that's great. Well, we know that the type of person that is in that age group and the demographic that is typically an intern for us, they're also spending a lot of time on Facebook, and if we can get them to just fill out that form right there, well, there's a conversion that came in, and it's extremely easy to track that then and say, obviously, that the traffic coming in from there was directly a result of the social media campaigns. Now, another thing that we're doing is the only place that we're advertising this link to that form is from Facebook. You can still fill out the form on our website, and that's what we're promoting on Twitter, and that's what we're promoting in advertisements and flyers that we hand out. So we know that the people that came and filled out this form through Facebook are people that exclusively found us on Facebook. And that's fantastic, because that's really the purest form of ROI, to actually see those things take place there. Now, so you can do this with forms and things like that, but you can also do this to some degree with an e-commerce site and with actual sales. I want to say Express, the clothing store that's in a lot of malls out there, they've actually taken their whole catalog and moved it over to Facebook. So it's a little bit different buying experience. Honestly, it's a little clunky in terms of how you're actually interacting with the catalog, but it adds a whole social element, obviously, where you can get feedback from other people on what they think of different outfits and things like that. And then you can actually go through that entire purchasing process right up to the last step of putting in your credit card. When you click on that checkout button, it takes you back over to the Express website. But it throws all those things that you put in your shopping cart into the shopping cart in the Express site, so it's really just the ending there. And so obviously they're able to have a really good way to track that social media ROI, where other companies like the Gap or different clothing stores are kind of maybe losing people in that crossover in terms of who came from where. So great example there, and I encourage you to kind of check out what Express is doing and maybe find a way that you can move your conversions over to social media. So going back to the magic bullet question, what's the answer? Well, I mean, really, besides those last couple of examples that I showed, the only way to really isolate social media is to only advertise on social media. And I know that's not an option for 99.9% of us. But if you're just doing those advertisements in one place, that's the only way you're going to get pure, true social media ROI. But unfortunately, we live in a world where that really isn't the case, and so you've got to look at some of those correlations, some of those trends, and all those different sources out there. Luckily, things like Google Analytics are getting better. Those tools that I showed did not exist, a few months or a year or so ago, and so we're getting closer, and we're getting closer to being able to actually justify these costs, and that's great, because social media does work when done correctly, and it's difficult a lot of times to get buy-in at the executive level, and so having that ammo to go back with and show that it is working, that's definitely beneficial for your business. So that is all we have for the presentation portion, and hopefully we've got some questions here, and we'll go ahead and open up to those. So I'm bringing up the questions tab here. And we'll see what we've got. All right. So does Google Analytics automatically have the social media info, was one question that we got. The answer is yes and no. They're automatically tying in what they can and what they know in terms of people that are coming over as far as Twitter, Facebook, and those things being a lead source. But there's also code that you can put in to Google Analytics that they provide that will help you be able to track those conversions even better. So I believe social plugins. There's on the home page of Google Analytics, they'll provide you with some code to go ahead and put that information in about your business and what your page link is, and you actually have to verify a couple of things with them and go through that process. And you probably want to get your web host involved to help with that. But once you do that, it pulls in all that information automatically, and you can set it up from all those different sites. Let's see other questions we have. Is it more likely to have a higher bounce rate from people coming from places other than social media sources? I.e., is it safe to assume that social media sources are more sticky? That's a good question. I don't think that's a hard and fast rule, though, that you can definitely point to. I think that the bounce rate that you have is going to depend significantly on what type of content you have there. So as you saw with the Stumble Upon ad, I mean, what we did wasn't something related directly to social media. It was something we were, trying to get to go viral a little bit, and as such, the traffic wasn't as qualified, and it wasn't as sticky as you would say. But if we post something that is much more relevant to our industry, we're going to see that bounce rate go up. So it's not necessarily what that lead source is. It's not about did this come from social or did this come from something more traditional. It's more about what is that content exactly. Let's see. We have a couple other questions that look like they were answered. If you have any other questions, you could certainly still put those in the questions tab, and we will get to them. But it looks like that might be it for now. And certainly if you have other questions after the fact that you think of, I'd welcome you to email me. My address is pvr@352media.com, and you can email me there. And like I said, we'll go ahead and get the video version of this webinar up on our blog, and we'll send you out a link when that's done, and so you can share that or review anything that you might have missed. And if you have any links that you wanted me to share, I can share those with you as well. A couple last questions coming in real quick. We've got one. When representing a government, how do you suggest tracking share of mind on social media? Wow, that's a great question. Obviously there's different laws and stuff that I'm sure you're more aware of than I am if you're involved with a government institution. But I mean, I think the fundamentals there for tracking the share of mind would be the same as they would for a business or a band or whatever different kind of organization. It's what you do with that information, I think, after the fact that is more specific to government and obviously the privacy implications and things that you can and cannot share. Question here of how do you get qualified leads from all social media sources? And again, I think I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think that goes back to the content as well. If you're staying on topic with your posts and consistently posting about things in your industry, and that way you're building a fan base that is interested in those types of things, and you're helping to educate them on those kinds of things. Think about who a qualified lead is for you, and think about what you're posting in terms of, is that something that's relevant to them? So, for example, we want to reach out to marketing people mostly, marketing executives, CMOs, directors of marketing. So we're going to want to put posts on our Facebook page that are relevant to those people. Where we could very easily, as web designers, go out and post a lot of tech stuff about HTML5 and different ways to do code, and that's great, and that might get a lot of traction, but that's not going to lead directly back to the type of lead that we want to get. We want to get those leads from the marketing people, and so we don't want to be talking over their head, and we don't want to be talking beneath them either. So finding out what that information is that we can share so that that it's helping out that specific audience that is a qualified lead for us. That's the best way for us to open that up. So another question just came in. If a visitor comes to the website from an email that you send out, then opens a new browser window and types in the address as opposed to clicking on the link, how can I show that they came from that email? Is that possible? No, technically not possible in terms of tracking that directly, unless, of course, you're sending out something that is an exclusive link. So if you were sending out a link to a landing page, for example, if I were to send out an email that had a link to 352media.com, that's our homepage, and there's a million links coming from various sites around the internet to that page. So if someone types that in, I can't tell how that's different from someone typing it in that didn't see the email. But if I had a specific page that I made for that campaign, so if the campaign was about, let's say it was about design, and so I sent out the link of 352media.com/design. If I know that I only gave out that lead to people through that email, then that's a way I can track that and see the people that not just clicked on it but actually typed it in. Obviously you've got situations then where someone might share it with other people, and that's great. You can't necessarily track it back to which person that was like you could with other email marketing, but it still give you much better numbers than just looking at a general page that people are going to. All right, we'll go ahead and close here with the questions. I know there might be some more rolling in, but you can, again, certainly email those to me or post them on the blog post when we put it up, and we'll try to answer all of those that we can. So thank you again very much for your time, and we'll let you know about future webinars that we have. Thanks.